Welcome to Panfish Station. My name is Mark, co-host of the great Lyle Stokes. What's going on, Lyle?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I had to open my big mouth.
Here we go.
I had to announce that fishing season was open not 2 weeks ago, and this week it should have been closed. It was pretty much closed. Holy smokes! It was 38 degrees when I got on the water on Monday. With 25-mile-an-hour winds with 30-mile-an-hour gusts.
Well, if it had to be one of us, I'm glad it was you, not me.
We froze to death out there.
I understand you had company.
We did. I had Betty Jo. Oh my God! If she's listening, she's going to kill me. Wait, I'm expecting an emoji to come in on my phone because I think she's probably watching.
Sure, you'll get it. Yeah.
I had Betty Jean come in here and hang out. The plan was to go fish all week. I got some pictures from it. We were going to go fishing up in Mendota, which we did on Monday. She looked like a road cone in her bibs, the brightest orange I ever done seen. But you know what? She was the warmest one in the boat. What did you ask?
Did she look like a short version of Josh?
I would not say that. I'm not. You know what? I am not going to say that.
But yeah.
Then again, it'll probably be a year before I see her. So
we
did pretty good. We did pretty good regardless. We didn't get too many of the targeted species, but we'll get into that in a little while. Right now, let me check my temperature here. Here, it's 48 degrees right here, and it is raining. I can hear it raining out there now. So
wow, that's 48.
That's pretty much been the case all week. So it's not going to stop raining until Friday. And you know what it is what's this weekend, Lyle? Why don't you remind everybody? Remember the ones that have given for the rest of us to enjoy. That includes not just servicemen, although we're very grateful for them, police officers, ambulance drivers, nurses, ER doctors. There's a lot of them that have lost their lives and give their lives every day. So
that's exactly right, and we're so thankful for all of them. They all mean so much to us. The military guys have a special place in my heart, but they all are so important. And if you don't think that the people and doctors and nurses and stuff are important, just see somebody that you care about get really ill and then go see the kind of care they get taken. And when the people come in there, they're always smiling and doing their job and making sure everything's right. It means the world to everybody else.
You know, that being said, for those of you who work in retail, listening or here in chat, Betty's a nurse, and I did not know this, but at a certain shop that we were at, she received a discount called a Heroes discount for being an RN. She just showed her ID. So if you're in retail and your boss has some sort of control over something like that, why don't you ask to see if you don't know? Ask and see if they offer that discount to these good folks at your business, and if not, maybe tell them that maybe they should. So they don't.
And if you are a business, maybe you should think about it.
100%.
These people, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing.
On a lighter note, or I should say, on a dumber note, all the knuckleheads come out this weekend, Lyle.
That's true. If you're going to fish, be extremely careful, because every dipstick that's ever been a dipstick will be on the water this weekend, and they'll be tying up the boat ramps for hours on end. It's supposed to be raining here. I don't know if it's going to or not. Doesn't make any difference. I'll be sitting at home. I am not going to go out and fight with them clowns because, well, to start with, I'm too old and I get mad and people get in trouble. You know, I know you understand.
You said the word dipstick, which is pretty fitting for us fishermen. I don't know about how about the dips without sticks out there on the water? That's more like it.
That is more like it. It's true. And the thing that we really have to watch, Mark, every year on these big holidays, not just Memorial Day weekend, the 4th of July and Labor Day and all the big holidays where there's 3 and 4 day weekends, there's injuries and fatalities on the water.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to come back and watch our show and be with us and share the fun and stuff that we do and the things we talk about, and hopefully we can help you catch more fish. And if you don't, maybe you can help us get more.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned share the fun, and that being said, I'm going to show off some pictures that were sent to me from a few people. I see a couple of them in here in chat, so I'm excited about sharing that stuff. I'm always, happy to get those pictures via messenger and email and stuff, and it's always cool to see those smiling faces and the fact that they thought enough they thought enough of me that they were willing to share that part of their life with.
I find it very fun.
I do too, 100%. You guys do the segment on Catfish Weekly every Wednesday. I'm not meaning to start anything, but this is a different type of show. But people just go ahead and send. We're not asking for them, but we love to get them 100%.
We do.
Make sure you check out Catfish Weekly every Wednesday night if you want to see every Monday night. Oh my God. I'm tired.
Must have wore in on you.
She wore me out. Holy smokes. We played cards every night and enjoyed adult beverages and all sorts of stuff.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
My wife even had to stay home one day from work, but we can talk about that after the show.
Okay.
My dogs are in a coma upstairs even. Plum wore us out. What's the weather out by you, Lyle?
Hang on. I just said it a while ago, but I forgot. Now it's 67 degrees, but Mark, as per this year has been, it has been windy and windy and windy again, and it's going to continue to be for the next few days. So I thought it was March winds and April showers and then hot weather, but it's just been wind. I can't remember but one day in the last month or so that it hasn't been just extremely windy. The rest of the time it has been. And not that you can, there we go.
I'm going to admit something. She already gave me the emoji before the show. I expect the second one before the show's over.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that. But, the wind just keeps blowing. I never remember, in my 67 years, I do not remember a year with this consistent for so many days in a row having so much wind. But, everything changes.
Last Thursday, it was 94 degrees here, Lyle.
Holy crap.
And Monday, we were launching the boat, and like I said, in 38 degrees and 25 mile an hour winds. It was ridiculous.
Man.
I went from having my air conditioning on to my heat on all in 24 hours.
Wow.
And that shut the fishing down for the most part, but we worked pretty hard. And we did all right. We had a good time. We had a lot of fun.
That's the thing. You caught fish, which is good because everybody enjoys catching fish, but but you guys had a good time, and that's what you're after.
Man, wonderful. I got some stories for you. One in a parking lot. We won't say that on here though.
Okay. I'll be willing to listen to them.
All right, bud. Let me say hello to everybody who's in chat here. Let me get the list pulled up here. There's Betty Jean, couple crosses fishing. How you doing, Betty? Glad you made it home. Benoit fishing outdoors. How you doing, ladies? Burrito Catfish Lady. Hey, Lisa. How you doing, dear? We got Crappie Day Darren in the house. Greg Burgess in the house. What's going on, Greg? How you doing? I bet you he's got the warm weather down by him.
I bet so, yeah.
He ain't dealing with what we're dealing with. Lance McCougai, what's up, Lance? Hopefully Lance didn't get hit with any of that really bad weather earlier in the week. Hopefully everybody's safe up there that he knows. There's my buddy Curtis, Quiet Man Curtis in the house. How you doing, Curtis? If I had M&Ms to share, I'd share them with you, bud. There's John from Small Water Charters. How you doing, John? The Crappie Kid in the house. What's going on, kid? How you doing? Always good to see you. just been seeing some of his TikToks too, but that's another story. And there's Matt want to be outdoors. He had a pretty good weekend at that gathering. He got himself a big old flathead, and
It was
he
a
did a lot of
giant.
live streaming and stuff. So that's good to see Matt getting out there and showing off what he can do.
Absolutely. I watched some of that. That was a giant flathead. I was so happy for him that he caught that. I wished he'd have caught it on that fly rod I built. That might have been fun.
Speaking of that, I seen somebody out in Mendota with a fly rod the last time I was out there, the last week, and he was hitting. I was sorry I didn't have mine, but he was getting the big bluegills out of there. Not as fast as we were, but he was being patient, and it looked a lot of fun when he hooked up.
Oh, they are a lot of fun. Now, did you fish Mendota Lake for bluegill?
That's where we fished on Monday. And okay, Monday morning we left here. We left the house like 4 a.m. Drove up there, met with Jerry Hohausen. Jerry, great dude. We always have fun. Always have fun fishing with Jerry and Betty especially. We met up at the boat ramp on Lake Mendota. Got the boat unloaded, head out there, and we were the only ones out on that lake. That's a decent sized lake, actually.
Yeah.
That I'm used to. We were the only ones out. The marinas weren't even cleaning boats and taking care of boats this close to the holiday weekend. That tells you the kind of weather that there was out there. So we trolled through this. Well, not troll, but we idled through that shallow bay for a while. I had my electronics going full bore. Finally found some fish movement. We settled up on an underwater like rock wall that runs like the length of that North Bay. And I did find it with my skag this week too, but I didn't do any damage. Roughed it up a little bit, and we got on there and we just kind of hung out over there for a while. I got the Jerry, I think at the first fish, he got a big bass on a tiny little spike, which is like a red waxworm. It's just a different kind of larva that a lot of ice fishermen use. He got that big old bass on a tiny little piece of larva like that. And then I got a bluegill, and our eyes lit up because we thought that for sure we were going to have a hard time, which we did, because the water temps dropped. It was 68 degrees last week, and it was 58 degrees when we got there on Monday. Water temp, I'm talking.
Right.
So we were happy to see the bluegill that I caught, and I caught that on a Berkley tube jig. I found some Berkley tube jigs when I was at Farm Fleet the last time. Yeah, so I figured I'd throw that on and give it a shot, and I found it. It was a pretty decent size one. We'll show the pictures later in the show, just because they're mixed.
I like Farm and Fleet. I wish I had one.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good place to go. Got that in the boat, and then Jerry got a northern pike, like a 28-incher, maybe around the 26 inches, something like that. And then we started hitting the channel, between there and Cherokee, and hitting some docks and stuff, and picked up a bunch of smaller fish and a perch and stuff like that. But we were off the water I think we were heading back to the boat ramp by 11:30. Me and Jerry were shivering. Betty Jean was warm as could be in those bright orange overalls. I got to get a pair like that. Holy smokes. And we loaded it up and kind of headed back. It wasn't too bad. We had a good time. We had food out on the boat, the whole deal. So I was very grateful. We were going to go out and try and fish for walleye the next morning, but we had storms here, so that didn't work. Oh, we got a 24-inch walleye too. So
nice.
That was caught on a stick bait or a husky jerk, which we'll talk about a little bit tonight in the shallow water fishing part of it. So,
see, Brian B has joined us.
Hey, why don't I say hello to everybody? I don't think I didn't. I did say hello. Hey, Brian B, what's going on? Did I miss anybody? The Crappie Kids in there. He says, Crappie Kids says, wait, there's a comment here. He says, I have a brim fishing episode just for you, Lyle. There you go.
All right. I'm anxious to see and hear about it.
I think that, When I think of, well, almost all the fishing I do locally here is shallow water fishing. But when I think of shallow water fishing, I'm thinking about a lot of the ponds I fish, which are going to come in handy this weekend, being all the knuckleheads are, all the dipsticks are out on the water.
That's right.
So
And
I might go out there and start hitting some of these ponds a little harder. I went out and caught. I got a tank full of bait in preparation for the guest Betty Jean. So I did pretty good. They're where I thought they're supposed to be right now, which is a good thing. I put like 16 small. Well, actually a couple of them are pretty big. Bluegill and pumpkin seeds in the bait tank and one ditch pickle, Lyle.
Are they legal for you for bait?
Yes, they are.
You lucky dog. Lucky dog. Man.
As long as there isn't a size and creel limit, you can use it for the most part. So
I cannot understand why Missouri will not let me use bass. It's not that I think they're that great at bait, because I don't know. I just think we need to get rid of some of them, and they eat all the bluegill and crappie, so why not chop them up for cut bait and let the catfish in?
oh, I'm going to use it live. I'm going to put it on a big old Whisker Seeker 8-aught J hook.
Oh, you're going flathead hunting.
Underneath one of them floats. Yeah, I always start my flathead season usually after Memorial Day weekend. So May's a busy month for me with family stuff. And Mendota, I always like to go up there in May. Works out well. So eat the bass. You know what, Matt? We did eat that 3.5 pounder so bass.
You know, they fillet up real nice. They really do.
You know, I was surprised how little meat was on this thing compared. You know, it was not as long as the walleye, and you know, walleye's like not as tall a fish, obviously.
Right, they're thinner. Well, that's not the word either. But they don't
Not
have
as
the height of the body
height.
like a bass does.
They don't have the shoulders that a bass does. How about that? So anytime I catch a tall fish like your favorite drum or whatever, I consider them tall.
Them things are nasty. Have you ever tried to use one for bait?
You know what? I've tried. I've never caught anything on them.
Nobody I know of ever catches anything on them.
I don't know what it is. You would think that, you know, they're pretty shiny and flashy fish. And if they're kicking, they're going to call a flathead in.
But they won't eat them.
But I've caught them on, you know, carp that size. I like using like 6 to 8 inch carp that I'll get in a cast net from time to time. They work great underneath the float. Never had any luck with drum. You know, people badmouth drum, but you know what? If you're having a rough morning or afternoon fishing and you get a drum on the end of your line, that tug kind of.
They are fun to catch. I can't not deny they are fun to catch. They fight hard, and if you're in a body of water that has current, they really fight hard.
I know that when Betty and Brandon were out in Sandusky, she sent me a picture of a big old drum that they caught. I think she caught it actually. Forgive me, Betty. It was like half as long as she was.
Holy crap, that's a giant.
There's some big ones on that bay over there.
Man, Mike Sampson's joined us.
What's up, Sampy? How you doing, bud?
Glad to see him in here
tonight. Oh, one more thing that that with the walleye we caught, we got we had a fish fry over here, obviously, and we cooked the cheeks out of the walleye, and I showed Betty Jean all about walleye wings, and she was very happy that I showed her that, because that's like an extra couple of decent sized chunks of meat that you can get off of walleye. They're very good. I think they're fantastic. I leave the fins on when I cook them, so you hold them like a chicken wing and eat them. But she cut the wings off, and I'll tell you what, it tasted just as good. So
I'll bet they did. I'll bet they did. You know, we was talking about this being fishing shallow water. This is one of my favorite times of the year, because most of the panfish are either spawning, have spawned, or staging up to spawn. And where do they spawn? Up in the shallow water. If you can find a place that's a dandy, man. That is huge. Wow.
That's a big one. I just got this via text, so thank you, Betty.
But yeah, this time of the year, if you're a crappie or a bluegill or sunfish of any kind, this is your time of the year. You should be happy as can be, You can catch them on jigs. You can catch them on cricket. You can catch them on fishing worms. You can catch them on minnows. And if you find a crappie bed or a bluegill bed, especially, and you can see them, they look like little divots in a grid. Just cast over there amongst them, and they'll hit it just to get it out of that nest. And you got them. I mean, it's a great time of the year to be catching panfish. It really is.
You know what? And we've had this conversation before, during the year, the summer, the fall, spring, or whatever. Whenever I come across a bunch of beds, I mark them down on my drop a waypoint, and I know they're there. And when I go out in the morning in the spring, when I know the bluegill are going to start spawning, or the crappie, or even the perch, I know where to start. They're not always there, but I know exactly where to start. So it's
Absolutely.
no different than but no different than making the journal. Only this is kind of an electronic version,
Right. The thing about those beds are they'll come back to them every year unless something changes for in diet or structure or whatever reason they built
Weather.
them. But there's not that it's 100%, but for the most part they'll come back and use them every year. Hi, Jody. Bluegill beds look like underwater tires. There's some truth to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just sitting all one run, and you might find a bluegill bed that'd be 4 foot in diameter, have half a dozen or a dozen bluegill on it, and you may find one that runs 100 yards in a circle. It just
You won't.
depends on how many of them's there. And a lot of times when you're fishing in beds, you'll get the big guys. A lot of times because they're the ones that are going to do their job and not let them little guys in there.
Yeah. Welcome, Kevin. Too. I like to explain it as it looks like the dimples on a golf ball.
That's right.
That's what they look like. And the bigger they are, if they're bigger, they're usually bass, right? Perch don't really necessarily have beds. Perch, like we had the perch show, they lay their eggs on grass. So you would have to see them in clear water, or pull up some grass to find those eggs on there to know where they're spawning. But you get a if you go back and watch that show, you'll get a good idea of where to start looking. And their eggs are like taped together almost. They look like a ribbon of
Really?
eggs. So, yeah, and they stick those to the grass, which is why they're so prolific. They tuck them eggs up in the weeds, and you're not able to the other fish. They're able to hide from other fish for the most
What
part.
about side imaging or 360 imaging that I have to find those perch?
Well, you won't be able to see the eggs because they're so tiny, or those
No, I
little
mean the fish that's on the net.
fish that are on the nest. What I look for, like with my, you can see this on side imaging or front facing sonar. You'll see a little white speck in the middle of those dimples, like those
That's
golf
your
ball
fish.
dimples. And that means there's a fish on there. Don't waste your time fishing beds that don't have that little white speck on there. If you can see them on your forward facing image, because you're just wasting your time, just go for them. And and that being said, remember, you are fishing during the spawn. It's always good to return, responsible harvest when you're doing that, but it's still a good deal of fun. So
Another thing, Mark, that a lot of people have forgotten about or don't talk about because they're after the big ones. But if you will fish the outer areas of a bed, you'll get all the ones that they run off that don't get to be part of that because they're still there. They still want in there. The big guys won't let them in.
There's a term for that in the wildlife world, but we're not going to say that because there might be kids watching.
I got you, man.
So back to so this time of year you're looking for things, and something that I've learned over the years is the order of spawn when it comes to panfish. First come the perch, right? Then come the crappie, then come the bluegill.
Right.
So almost always, at least in northern Illinois, in Wisconsin, that's usually the order that it happens. Keep that in mind. That being said, sometimes you got outliers, this and that. It's not a sure thing, but it's a good rule of thumb to remember when you're fishing the spawn for panfish. So
one thing that sticks in my mind that I've heard for a long time: water temperature has a ton to do with when these fish bed. And the old timers will tell you when the water temperature gets right and you get a full moon, that's when.
Yep.
So I've never found that to be wrong, but it's kind of an old wives' tale, but it happens.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I the moon. All right, moon phases. Real quick, this is my opinion on moon phases. If they can control the ocean and raise and lower tides 20+ feet,
There you go.
and weather affects the bite, the barometric pressure affects the bite, why wouldn't the moon do it? So moon phase has a lot to do, especially with the flathead spawn for sure. Any fish that lives under said moon, that's got an air bladder, it would affect it because it's
I would have to
definitely
think so, yeah.
pressure. That's my thinking. I'm no biologist, but
Yeah,
and Kevin, welcome. If I didn't say, he says perch don't make nests, and don't guard their eggs. They spawn very early. They do in the weeds, like I was saying,
yeah.
with the ribbons. So
Here's another one right below that Matt says, what about shellcracker? Matt, shellcracker spawn basically at the same time the bluegills.
yeah.
And a lot of times in the same nesting grid.
Oh, that's a good point. I only catch shellcracker in one place here on the trophy pond that I took Betty Jean to. There's shellcracker in there, but
There's
those were
bluegill.
stocked. Yeah, those were stocked. So
Are they in there? Have they been in there a long time?
ever since I can remember, and I've been bait fishing that pond for a long time.
There you go. They're the ones that are born in there. They're no longer stocked. They was born. You got to get a start somehow.
You want to read that for me, Lyle?
Mark, at my age, my fishing license are $5.50 a year. It includes deer, squirrel, rabbit, all game except duck. Well, Greg, that's not too bad. But at my age, they are $0.
Even a hunting license?
Even hunting license.
Well, you still got to buy
game.
tags. You got to buy tags, right?
Yeah, if you should go deer hunting, you got to buy deer tag. If you go duck hunting, you got to buy duck stamp. That's federal. Eh? You ain't going to get out of no waterfowl.
Oh, and if Jerry's listening, Jerry Hohausen, he got a spring turkey last Wednesday.
Oh, congratulations, Jerry.
And Lyle, he invited us over after fishing to have some turkey stew and homemade biscuits. We can talk about that later. We'll talk about it later.
Jerry is a hell of a cook.
He's a heck of an outdoorsman. He's a carpenter, built his own house, and he's a heck of a gardener. He's got his garden rare and ready to go. We were at his house, and he had all the trays of plants and flowers that he was going to plant out in front. So he's got a good setup there. He's got a great wife. They do a lot of stuff for the church up there in Madison, and his wife teaches a lot of homeschool kids math. They actually were showing up at his house while we were there. So they're pretty outstanding people. I'm honored to know.
He's one of the best you'll ever meet. He really is. I think the world of him. But yeah. Here's another great comment, Mark. Jerry Parker says red ears will typically be in the deepest water around bluegill spawning areas. Mm-hmm. But like I say, not the giants will be. The smaller ones, you'll be able to find them in the nest with the bluegill. I've caught them right out of the same nest.
Kevin says our reservoir has shell crackers that were originally stocked. They spawn right with the bluegills and pumpkin seeds. That's what I was thinking.
There you go. I don't know. I wish I did. I wish they had the information because warmouth and I can't think of the name of the fish I'm talking. Anyhow, they
rock
don't
bass?
Rock bass when they spawn. I don't know when they spawn. I'd like to know when they spawn. I don't know where they spawn either. But in the small rivers and creeks in Missouri, they're pretty prolific. You catch a lot of them.
That being said, green sunfish are pretty similar to both of those fish.
Mm-hmm.
I know when the green sunfish here, they spawn early July, late June, because you can see them up against the rock. You can see those little orange tip tails or
Yep.
orange tip tails and fins wiggling in the water. It's a pretty cool thing to see, especially in an overrun place where they're at. Not that it's a good thing, but it's pretty impressive to see all them fish right at the surface for sure.
I tell you, one of the most impressive things when we was at Mendota, we was actually in Cherokee between the two lakes, and all them carp going up in the shallows to spawn.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of them. People don't realize how prolific breeders that carp are. And I'm talking about common carp, not the Asian carp. Everybody knows what a pain in the ass they are. But them common carp, they get up there in the shallows and they spawn and they bang into each other. You can watch them fight. It's really pretty cool to watch.
They were already doing that at Mendota, like in the reeds, right as you're entering that channel back towards Cherokee. Me and Jerry were watching them beat on each other, like in like inches of water. It was ridiculous. Yeah. Cool to see. And I did talk to a local guy at the boat ramp there. I talked to him for about, I don't know, hour and 15 minutes. But remember I said that I swear I saw that channel catch. They were spawning back there in Cherokee all over the top of the water. He corrected me and said that's exactly what and where those big 2 and 3 pound bullheads do over there. So that's good to know. That, looking back, I remember how brown the fish were, which are basically the yellow bullheads they have over there. But that's what they're doing right there at that one inlet back in Cherokee. That was something cool to see.
I'm going to tell you right now, there's some of the biggest bullheads in there I've seen in a long time.
My PB came out of there 2 pounds, 8 ounces, 2.5 pounds.
They're giant. Bullets and barbecue. Thanks for joining us. Glad to see you here tonight.
I'm going to do some barbecuing this week, and you can count on that, Lyle.
I understand.
Betty says, some kids snagged a piggy carp at Mendota, and you would have thought they snagged $1 million. It was so nice to see those kids enjoying the fishing. Yep.
Carp are fired fighters, and like I've said before, especially in river current, they use the wide body in that current to their advantage, and they fight for a long time, and they fight hard. They're fun to
a lot of times it's the males trying to massage the eggs out of the females to get them to drop them. They do that an awful lot too. I've seen that boat side, to be honest. That's something else that's cool to see. And over here, they'll spawn all of June. I see when I'm walleye fishing in June here, which is coming up here real soon. It's crazy. It's like a fireworks show on the bank, that just little explosions or splashes going off everywhere.
And for a lot of people think them are bass up there hitting top water stuff. It has nothing to do with bass.
Oh, here's something that I know a fly fisherman that loves fishing for carp with his fly rod. And what he does is he goes out during the spawn, because they're out there, they're at the surface. He puts a little tiny chunk of sponge on a hook and a couple of drops of that essence or whatever oil that the carp fishermen use. Mm-hmm. Yep. Not anise. They use like pineapple or strawberry, tutti frutti he had with him once. And he hooks into one of them, 7-8 pounders, and it's game on for him. He has a blast doing that. So,
I'll never forget, my brother had a 25 horse Elgin motor on a 16 or 18 foot Elgin, real one of them narrow boats when I was a kid. I was probably 14, 15 years old. And before my dad passed away, we took him out on the Mississippi River. He caught the biggest fish that he ever caught in his life. It was an 18-pound carp below the dam at Clarksville.
Wow.
With water running through the dam. So you can imagine the current that was down there. And we was anchored up. And that thing, he had a Zebco 33 on some old rod that we had. And that thing had him all over that river. It was great to watch him, to be there to watch him catch the only big fish that he ever caught, and had such a good time.
Matt says, Mark, walleye, June. Mark it on my calendar. Actually, the walleye fishing here, Matt, is better in May. A lot of the guys that I know have been killing it, but like I say, my Mays are awfully busy. So I usually fish the tail end of the post-spawn season, which is in June, because Betty says in July. That's when I got a bunch of 26s, my PB at 27.5 then, and a bunch of keeper size, like 14 to 18-inch ones. So
right,
I'll be hitting that pretty soon. And again, I'm catching them in shallow water. It's ridiculous. That 27.5 inch walleye, I literally got 2 feet off a bank in a foot of water. Must have been laying up in them weeds. I just casted a worm on a big old 5/0 jig, 5/0 hook jig, like a 5/8 ounce, a big one, because there's some current in that area. As soon as it drifted by him, he just nailed it like it was nothing.
These weeds, if you have a lake that has those weeds in them, what a great place to fish right at the edge of them. Man, I bet Gabby and Alice.
I'm not going to read that because Josh will dice that up, send it out to people.
You never know about that.
Greg says, Mark, I might barbecue some shrimp wrapped in bacon this weekend. Now you're
Oh my
talking.
God, that's good. Holy crap. Love that.
I got my eyes on doing some Korean ribs hot and fast on my Weber grill, actually on my charcoal grill.
Too.
That'll be good with a nice spicy pear barbecue sauce. Holy smokes, I'm looking forward to that.
You know what I like?
Everything? Shrimp.
Food. I like shrimp.
Yeah.
I like shrimp. Food is good.
What did you say you liked, Lyle?
Food.
Food? Yeah, me too.
Food, just food. I'm not really there's only half a dozen things that I won't eat. Cooked celery and cooked turnips is 2 right off the top of my head, but I'll try about anything once.
All right, so when you come up here, you're going to try sushi with me, right, bud?
No.
Yeah, you're going to. We're going to make that. We're going to make that happen, and you're going to be like, "Oh, I missed this."
I'm on a diet, Mark, and sushi is not included in that.
Yeah, seafood diet. Seafood, you eat it, like I was saying. Hey, everybody in chat, do you guys like sushi or not? Let's see what they got to say in chat. We always get some we always get some interesting answers when that topic comes up.
We do. Yeah.
So, okay, now we were talking about shallow water fishing. I was talking about walleye. So, like I said earlier, me and Betty ended up at Farm and Fleet on the day we kind of got rained out. And I picked out a couple of search baits or methods I use for searching. Not that I use that I'm looking forward to use this year for searching for walleyes. And these baits are they're from Kalen's. Kalen's is mainly up here, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, up in Minnesota. They're really popular. They're walleye based. They do a lot of smallmouth baits and other stuff like that, jigs and stuff. And these are called their tungsten search baits. These are pretty cool. Can you see those, Lyle?
Can. Let me give you full screen, Mark. Hang on.
All right, we'll just show that off a little bit. They're tungsten search baits. I got this one in like a perch color because that's like their main forage, right? Or fire tiger, which is perch. And purple is always a hot color. Now take a look at it. It's got a tungsten head. It's got a jointed body, so it's attached by a swivel. It's got a little blade bait on there, and they use what's called a slow death hook. So when you put a worm on the back of this, and I'm talking about a night crawler, and if you're pulling it through the water, it'll cause the bait to turn slowly through the water. Reason why I got these, you can take me out. Well, actually, don't take me out. Reason why I got these is because of the blade on there that spins, the little spinner blade, because we all like inline spinners. You can't go wrong with those baits.
I love it.
And in current behind my boat, I'm going to be able to keep this above the weeds, which is where all the walleye are hiding this time of year. They're right on the weeds, right on the weed edges. And you want to keep obviously you want to fish the weeds, but no good if you're getting stuck in the weeds. So you want to keep right above them or right alongside them. And I'm pretty sure that these are going to work well. I also did pick up one of the Kalen's slip bobber kits. These are pretty neat. Now anybody can use a slip bobber, but these, they got the nice slip bobbers. I like the Kalen slip bobbers. I believe, is it the Kalen ones or the other brand? I believe they have a brass tube that runs all the way through it, so it's easier to fit or to get your line through there. When you're using a thinner diameter braid or something, sometimes it's hard to get through get it through a slip bobber. And these kits come with everything. They come with tungsten jig heads for the bottom. They come with the weights. The weights are all matched up to the size. So I figured I'd give them a shot. They're both of these baits, like these search baits are pricey. I'm not going to lie. One of these was like $9.99, Lyle.
Whew.
The search baits, but they're tungsten. That's the problem. Everything tungstens is expensive. That's how come I only bought 2 of my favorite colors instead of all the colors like you would have tried to talk me into while I was there.
I would never.
Yes, you would.
Oh,
And this kit I just wanted to get so I could check out how these weights. They also have, if you take a look here, there's little weights that go. Oh, what am I doing here? That's backwards. I keep remembering. They have little weights right here that go on the line right below the. They come with the swivels and everything's matched up right. So, yeah, I'm excited to put these to work next week and we'll see how they do. And I do pour my own jig heads, but I have yet to figure out how to or what wide gap hooks work in the jig heads I pour. And wide gap hooks are great for walleyes because of minnows. And if you're using leeches, which I plan on trying again this year, they just work good. You get a better hook set than using like a regular type sickle or a crappie type hook. So, and these are just quarter ounce, so this should work good. I'll cast this up in the current in a couple of spots that I know the crappie like to a couple of shoals that we have here on the river, and we'll see what happens. I haven't used slip floats for walleye in a long time, but I'm really looking forward to it. I was looking for a rod too. I was looking at what is it? The St. Croix slip and rig icon rod and a 7.5 footer, but they're a ton of dough. I know a guy who makes custom rods that sent me a Panfish one that I think is going to work very well. It's the length I want, Mr. Stokes.
That's good.
It's the right length. It's the right action. I just gotta make sure I can get those bobber stops through there. So yeah, I have those to show off, and I don't see why not. All right, you can take me off, and I'll go back into.
Welcome, Ryan. Glad to see you made it in tonight.
Hey, what's going on, Ryan? Yeah, float fishing, anything that now shallow water fishing, you got to think of it this way. When you're fishing in a reservoir and you're fishing deeper water, you have depth of water column, Lyle. If you're fishing shallow water, when I say that, I'm talking anything between inches and let's say 4 feet. You don't have the water column for the fish to hide in, so you got to cover a lot of linear space in water.
Right, exactly.
So use search baits, inline spinners, those search baits that I showed you guys, stuff like that. Slow fishing underneath floats. You can't keep that bait in front of them long enough. You got to give them the time to see it, to decide whether or not they want it. But another piece of advice, if you're not using live bait, you got to move that bait so they don't know it's not live bait. If it's moving, they think it's alive, they're more likely to hit it. So those are like my go-tos for everything but catfish when I'm shallow water fishing, especially this time of the year in the spring. So
Mark, do you think them search baits that they just hi Mike Irwin, glad to see you in here tonight, that they are after them to eat or just to move?
I think multiple things. It's that whole cover all your bases. The more chips you got down on that roulette table, the higher your chances are winning. Okay, and what I mean by that is you're covering water, you're moving it past more fish. A lot of the bass guys I know we're not a bass channel. I'm not a bass fisherman, but the way they win tournaments is putting their lures in front of the most fish.
That's right.
That's what you got to do. Even in catfish tournaments, put your baits in front of the most fish that you can.
Every one of them is not going to eat. Every one of them is not going to eat. You're looking for the one that is. You can either find him when he's ready to eat and get him to take your bait, or you can aggravate him until he takes it. One of the two. I know a couple of very successful catfish guys that'll find fish in structure. They'll anchor above it, and they'll walk their bait back to that, and they'll just keep doing it until they make them fish so mad they either leave or they strike that bait, and they win a lot of tournaments. Now, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want want that getting out of who's doing it, but they've been doing it for years.
Tournament fishing's pretty hush hush for the most part. And I've been doing some salmon fishing here in the spring with Jerry, and those guys, they'll tell you anything and everything.
Yeah.
It's incredible the difference. Now, the perch guys on the big lake, they won't tell you anything. They'll tell you the wrong thing.
See that ain't right.
Let's see. Bullets of Barbecue says, I've only ever tried something by some hot stuff that had cucumber in it. Didn't like it, but there's a lot of different things out there. 100%. Jerry Parker says, love a good sashimi, especially tuna or mahi. Fatty tuna is the best, Jerry. So is smoked, like lightly. When I say smoked salmon sushi, Lyle, they barely touch it with smoke for a couple of minutes.
What's the point? I want that smoke in there.
Oh, trust me, you'll like it. You'll eat it.
So
you'll enjoy it.
I do like to eat. So.
Matt says he likes the bobber.
That's a great bobber. Look, that piece that goes through, that metal piece that goes through there, probably brass. That will save a lot of line.
Yeah. Jerry says, take those rigs, Mark, stick a piece of bluegill or sucker, drag them at Mendota, the channel cats, and probably smash them 100%.
Absolutely.
100%, I believe it.
Somebody fished up there with bobbers and was very successful.
Yeah, oh yeah. I might know that.
Fish in 3 days. That was a pretty good year. It wasn't all giants, but they was all a lot of fun. Every one of them. Especially that one I caught on that ice rod.
I got to read this comment. Parker Pursuit says, Lance, we are going to Hawaii in a couple weeks. He plans on getting some sushi while he's there. Jerry, I got one comment. Can't hide money, buddy. You must have all that Mad Catz money in your pocket.
Got that Chad Fields money.
Chad Fields money. Is that what it is? So yeah, those are some of my, biggest tactics for shallow water fishing. How about you, Lyle?
Well, I like to jig and bobber fish and use fishing worms and all kinds of stuff. I have been working on some stuff that I'm kind of excited about. I'm going to show off a couple of them, Mark.
All right, please. Let me give you a solo screen once you're ready.
I'm kind of ready.
Don't go away, folks. We still got them photos that people sent in, and there's some dandies in there. All right, here you go. Solo layout.
This little jewel here, I think, is going to be very successful. Now, it's hard for me to turn my thumbnail around, but that's how big that is compared to my thumbnail. It's all legs and a fat little body on a 1/64 ounce jig head. I have another one here that has got a gold head on it. I really expect these to be hot.
Yeah, I like that jointed looking body like that. That definitely looks like a bug.
Well, I'm trying to get an ant peel out of that with all them legs on it. I think them will work really good. And Mark, I showed you these before the show. This one is a lavender color. I've not done much in that color.
Mm-hmm.
But again, these are less than an inch long. 1/64 ounce jig head with a white body and gold colored tail on it. And this one I put some flash in with it, but in the water, them things it's got a lot of movement in. I got another one here, Mark. I'll show them right quick. But like I say, 1/64 ounce, and this one, I'm probably going to trim the tail up on it. It's the shortest one of all. And if I trim the tail up on it, I can make that thing 3/4 inch long. And look at that action.
Chartreuse, two different chartreuses. You can't go wrong with that.
Well, black head, a green body, and then I have these black ones here. I think this one's a good looking jig too.
Oh yeah,
I think that'll do really well.
You'll be surprised. That'll do well in cloudy water.
I think so.
You'd be surprised how well black works in cloudy water. Now, that being said, you got any more up there to show us, or you got all?
I have a few more here that I'll get another box out. Actually, it's out. But I want to try these for the bigger bluegill and maybe crappie. They're a little bit, that's not what I was looking for. This one is. These are on a 1/32 ounce jig head. And I'm not sure you couldn't use this one to catch skipjack.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you could.
You know,
Anything will bite on that. You can
I,
catch a
I,
carp on that, to be honest.
I got a couple of these bugs here that I made that are just a little bit different. Try to keep everything where it's not the same. Again, 1/32 ounce jig head, black body, and some legs coming out the middle of it, wrapped in red. I'm a big red thread guy.
Mm-hmm.
I All fish have red gills. All fish have red blood. I think that is a trigger mechanism for any fish. That's just my opinion, and that's why I make so much of red. Now, there is times when I'm wrapping on a black jig head, that I want it to be into the body and the jig. I don't want the red in there, and I'll use black thread on that, or dark blue,
Mm-hmm.
or dark green, something like that. But red, and I use some white, but I really like the red. I think it's a trigger mechanism. I have fished them side by side with one that didn't have red and one that did have red, and seems to me the red ones always catch not necessarily bigger fish, but more fish. Just me.
I have never not caught a fish because I've used a red hook. A lot of people say red's just a fad or whatever, and hooks, it doesn't make a difference. It's never stopped me from catching fish. That's all I'm gonna say. Whether it works better or not in just a plain hook, I don't know. In the real cold water around here, a gold head with a red body is money. You're gonna get a ton of panfish on that. That being said, another shallow water tactic, fly fishing, Lyle.
Yep. Oh yeah, fly fishing. It's time, and I have two of them laying right back there, ready to go. I mean, they're set up and ready to go. I just got to get time to get back out and go. Um, Another thing about jigs, um, I've been using the panfish magnets.
Mm-hmm.
They make trout magnets, and I don't know how much difference it is between trout magnet
Good size.
but the the panfish magnet so far hadn't done me a lot of good. And I watch videos of guys
Mm-hmm.
that I know that are telling me the truth. They're catching fish on, but that's just like the Gulp minnow. I have limited success with those, and you do well on
I do well on both of those baits. Pretty, I do really well. But you know what though? The first time I went fishing with Jerry, where did really that well, I wasn't catching anything on those Berkley gulps that day. Where he started catching them on the red worms that I had brought, switched over to red worms, and there they were at, and we were fishing in the same spot. It's not like we moved the other fish. It all depends on what they want at that time. Maybe the times you've tried using those baits, that's not what they were looking for, Lyle. That's all I can think of.
Another thing, you remember here a month ago or so, James Dockery and I went up and fished a online pan for Stan Smith.
Absolutely.
James Jason Pershinger makes these baits. And if you don't have some, if you're in crappie where they're stacked in there like those was, you better call him up and get some ordered, because them babies flat put the crappie in the boat. We caught over 150 crappie in 4 hours.
So something definitely different, and it don't hurt those. And he gave me a bunch of willow baits that I've caught, a bunch of willow blade baits that I've caught a ton of fish on too. So they both work,
And I caught a couple of bluegill on them too,
Mhm.
and decent bluegill. I'm not sure the little bluegills can take. Well, I guess they probably could, but these are about 1.75 inches long, or maybe 2 inches. They was hot that day, and that's all we
You
used.
now let me add one more bait to the list that works well. What is it? Euro Tackle sells, and I have some in my boat, but I don't have them handy. I totally zoned on them. But Euro Tackle sells a 2-inch jerk bait, a little stick bait. You catch everything on those. Those are so fun to fish with too. They're a good time, and and you fish them like any other jerkbait that you fish. You twitch it twice, pause, twitch it twice, pause, twitch it twice, pause. On those pauses, when you get the bite. I've caught bluegill on them. I've caught crappie on them, bass on them. They're tiny baits. They're easy for them bluegill to get a hold of them, and you will catch fish on those, definitely.
Right. I've been watching. I can't think of his name right now. I'm sorry, folks. A guy down in Georgia, Georgia Boy Outdoors, is the name of his YouTube channel. They make a spider, which I have the thing to make the spiders with, and I've made them, and they work. They're great topwater bait. They make the big ones. They make the big spiders. They make them in white and black and 2 or 3 other colors, but the white one is the one they're using, and they're catching red bellies. And they throw them out there, and they use a number 2 hook, and they take a piece of an old rubber worm and put it up on the inside of there for added weight, so they can cast further and use an ultralight fishing tackle. And they're catching them red breasts down there like there ain't no tomorrow. Well, a red breast has a similar size mouth to a bluegill. And once in a while they'll catch a crappie, they catch bluegill and stuff like that. Sometimes they catch bass on it. That's a big enough hook to hold a decent sized bass. Yet with that rubber piece in there, not only cast further, it takes the gap out of the hook where the bluegills can get on. Pretty cool deal. If you get a chance, go watch Georgia Boy Outdoors. Him and his son and his wife make some great videos. Very entertaining. Matt, the guy's name is Jason Persinger.
I shared the link out in chat so he can contact Jason directly.
Tell him we sent you. Man, he's a great guy. He's a military veteran. He's just a super nice guy. He does everything in the world that you're supposed to do.
He's a disabled veteran, so give him your business, especially during Memorial Day.
Absolutely. And I think the world of Jason. He's a great dude.
Hey, Lyle, can I show these pictures off now?
Absolutely.
All right, we got some pictures sent in, and guess whose picture that is? That happens to be Matt's picture right there.
That's a cool looking jig.
There you go. Matt's tying jigs on floating jig heads here for walleye. Matt sent these to me a couple of weeks ago.
Floating jig heads.
What?
Did you say floating?
Floating jig heads. Yep.
Wow.
He's been tying on some of those. I don't know if these are the floating ones he was telling me about, but they work in the same way. Those are Popeye jigs that he tied. Good looking stuff. I don't see how he's not going to catch fish on those.
Oh, absolutely.
A sample of a couple more. I love that orange and yellow color and that green, the green and the chartreuse. Those are both good walleye jigs, to be honest. Those will catch. There they are again. Good stuff. He's just using what he's got handy, and he's doing a great job with those.
Yes, he is.
There's a blue one right there with some silver and some. I think that's marabou on there. I could be mistaken. There's another one he sent. He sent me a whole bunch of them. And there's Miss Chrissy. Miss Chrissy sent me a whole ton of pictures. Chrissy, if you're watching, I got a lot of the pictures on there. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody, but that's her with a big old bluegill. She was so happy to get out. She sent me those pictures last week.
What a nice lady.
I adore Chrissy and Ernie to death. They're good people.
They're awesome.
I think that's one of their grandkids right there with a little bass that he caught. He was pretty happy, even though he doesn't look like it in the picture. She told me he was ecstatic to catch it. So, well, maybe you can answer this question. How come some guys never smile in fish pictures?
I don't know. If I catch a fish and it's worthy of having a picture, even if it's not, I'm going to try to smile. At least a little bit.
And this is another grandchild right there. Look at that bluegill.
Great fish.
Look at that. Now that's the look you want right there when you catch a fish.
Absolutely.
There's Chrissy with another dandy. There's that nice truck of Ernie's too in the background. Look at that. See, that's what I look like when I catch a fish, Lyle, right there.
All smile. You bet.
Right like that. Look at that look. It's awesome. It's great to see. And there's Chrissy with another one. I might have doubled up on that one, so forgive me if I have. She sent me so many pictures, and they're all great big panfish like that. Those are some good eaters right there.
They are, man. Great. Good.
Oh, and look, there's Betty Jean. And I told you that was a bright set of overalls. She got a perch that day last Monday when we were out.
Must have called
Look
the
at look
same
at that.
place to get it that Josh got his.
Yeah. See, she was all bundled up. There's a pretty
He is
panfish.
bundled up.
Yep, there's a smallmouth she caught. She was happy to get on there. There's the pike that Jerry caught. That was a surprise. He caught that on a tiny 1/64 ounce rat fink jig. That was kind of
Wow.
surprising. There's the big old bass that we filleted up.
Excellent. Excellent.
There's the surprise bluegill that I caught.
That's a good thing.
There's a picture of the three of us with some of the fish we caught. There's that big old walleye. That's a dandy. That was fun to catch.
That is a great walleye.
So yeah, that's a summary of the pictures that were sent to me, and also the fun that we had on Monday. So I figured I would share those.
Oh, I'm so glad you did, and I'm glad Christy sent those pictures in of her and her grandkids because, man, that's just really cool to see all those, and makes me smile when I see them kids. There's a lot worse things kids can do, Mark, than go out and catch fish.
And Matt did a great job on tying those jigs too.
He did. They look awesome. Yeah. And I'm assuming that he used UV resin on those to make them look like that, which is what I do.
Whenever you look, they look nice and shiny. They look good.
They look great. Yeah, they look awesome. So, UV resin protects them a little bit, makes them harder. I don't know that it adds enough weight that it'd ever be noticeable, but it has to add some. But it keeps them from getting beat up, especially if you're fishing in rocks and stuff. And if they dull from being fished, just take you some clear fingernail polish and go over them again.
Mm-hmm.
And a Fig Newton of everybody's imagination, everybody's Sally Hansen this and Sally Hansen that. Well, lacquer paint is lacquer paint, whether it goes on an automotive car or if it goes in fingernail polish. Clear fingernail polish is the same. It's so close to the same from one brand to the next. The biggest difference in it is gel or non-gel, which I'm not sure you can buy non-gel anymore. But you don't have to buy the high dollar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff at dollar store.
And I have a bottle of that. And that being said, I have a bottle of that UV resin that I got off of Amazon that was recommended to me by Eric Massey. Mm-hmm. And I haven't even made a dent in that stuff yet. And I've painted a lot of jig heads with it. A lot.
I bought this stuff a couple of years ago and they had it on sale. If you buy one, you get one at half price. I bought 2 of these. I spilt some of them out of the first bottle. And it's still only about this far down. I don't know if I'll ever use this one, but let me tell you something about that. If you spill that shit, you might as well get something out to do some heavy duty cleaning. It is a mess.
And if you got a window open with the sun coming through, go get the grinder out of the garage.
Yeah, because it'll get hard quick. Now, another tip and trick that some people know and some people don't. I know we're running a little long, Mark. UV lights. I've got 2 of them. They work. They'll get it set where it's not going to go away. But if you want it to get really hard, take it outside and set it in the sunlight. That's the biggest UV light you'll ever find. Take you a cardboard box and make you some holes all around it. Set your jigs in there and just set it in the sunlight. Once you set them with your light, the sun will do the rest. I promise.
Matt says that stuff isn't coming off unless you use a saw.
Or burn it, yeah.
Well, Lyle, I had a good time tonight talking shallow water fishing. I'm sure we've missed a bunch of stuff.
We covered a lot, though.
We did. I liked sharing the time I had with Betty fishing out there. All the pictures.
You're a lucky man.
And some of my fishing experience with everybody and chatting, and you, of course. So
I always just enjoy it. Like I say, any little tidbits that help somebody catch more fish, we've done our job.
Mm-hmm. Or even just try and entertain some people. Now, let's remind everybody, if you haven't hit that thumbs up, please do before you head out. We greatly appreciate it. I want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday weekend, but remember, it is Memorial Day. Say thank you to a vet, a nurse, an emergency responder. They will appreciate it. And also spend time with your family. Stay safe on the water. That's all I got left to say, Lyle.
Cook something up and have a good weekend. Everybody be safe. Glad you joined us tonight. We'll see you next Monday night.
All right. Well, it's Monday night Catfish Weekly, Wednesday night Panfish.
Wednesday night up.
That's why we're here. Got each other's back.
That's right.
All
See you,
right. Good
folks.
night, everybody.